This week, we have a double dose of goodness. Of course, we have Jake's Take, the ultimate behind-the-scenes Bassmaster show with Bassmaster Videographer Jake Latendresse, but that's not all. We also have the newest Elite Series champion, Brock Mosley. Jake Latendresse and Brock Mosley join me this week on...
I'm Bob Cobb from the Bassmaster. Welcome to Mercer.
Welcome one, welcome all, friends, family, freeloaders, fishing freaks. You're all welcome here at the Awkwardly Honest Fishing Podcast that goes by my last name, which is Mercer. This is episode 113, and we got a good one. Just back from the Sabine River in Orange, Texas. Giant crowds, a giant festival, a giant event. The only thing that isn't giant there is the fish. But, man, what an emotional way to end that tournament. Brock Mosley finally gets it done and becomes a Bassmaster Elite Series champion after being a 5-time Elite Series bridesmaid. He is finally the bride. And there was a lot of tears shed in the crowd, which just shows how special of a person Brock is and how many people were cheering to see him pull this off. But it was a great event. I can't thank the people of Orange enough. The only thing missing at that event, for me personally, is air conditioning. It was very hot. I am too Canadian and too chunky to stand on a stage in that kind of sweltering heat. But we made it through. I need to apologize to one of our fine viewers. You guys know I love it when you guys come up and say hello to me. At events, I encourage you to do that. Come up, say hello, tell me you watch the podcast. We'll have a chat. Well, I was walking off the stage. I don't know if it was day 1 or day 2, but I was literally like soaked in sweat, just stumbling to the media trailer. And a guy, I believe his name was Kevin, stopped me to say hello. Hey, Kevin, thank you for saying hello. I shook his hand and said hi to him, said it was good to meet him. But then I kind of said, I got to go because I was sunstroked or something, but I went in the trailer and chilled out for a little while and I was fine. So Kevin, sorry, I was so sweaty when we met and in such a rush. But for everybody else, thank you for coming up and saying hello. It was great to see everybody. A great event, lots to talk about. And this week's show, we got lots to cover because we have Jake Latendresse here, as we always do after an Elite Series event. He is Bassmaster Videographer extraordinaire, so he's going to give his Jake's Take on the week. But we're also going to do something a little different. How about dragging the champ in here? We're going to champ chase, just like everybody else. We're going to bring Brock Mosley on. So this may be a very, very long podcast. So it may take more than one drive to work to listen to this. But hey, just like a good candy bar, you can eat it in sections. That's what our podcast is all about. Speaking of which, the streaming numbers are through the roof. YouTube has been growing for a long time. 215,000 subs now. Thank you for that. If you haven't subscribed, please do so. Throw a thumbs up, leave a comment. It's all appreciated. But if you listen on a streaming service, and more of you are doing this, and I'm going to encourage all of you to do it because it really helps us with ratings and the way the streaming, I mean, more people are watching the show streaming now than are watching on YouTube. Awesome. Thank you. More than double, which is amazing. So we want to keep pushing the streaming end. So do us a favor, please. Just leave a rating and a review on whatever streaming service, whether it be Apple, whether it be Spotify, wherever you do, leave a review, leave a rating. It really helps us. And I'm thankful for all of that. This show, before we go any further, just one little bit of, I don't know if it's negativity or what. You guys know, I mean, there's no magic behind this show. I mean, we don't have fancy music. We don't have fancy lights. We just have real conversations with real friends about real stuff. And just like in every conversation you have, whether it be with a friend at work, whether it be with your spouse, whatever, you're just having a conversation, just exchanging opinions and thoughts on things. And that's all this show is. Recently, one of our recent episodes, we had a very real conversation, a very honest conversation, a thankfully honest. I was shocked that the angler brought up some of the stuff that they did, but also thankful that they were comfortable enough to be as open and honest as they were. It was a great episode. It was just a few weeks ago. I'm not going to tell you which episode, but somebody got very upset about some of the stuff said in it. And there was a name used in that episode, and said person called me, and they were very upset. So upset that they threatened legal action. I actually said that would be great exposure for the podcast if you want to sue us. Please don't, because I can't afford that kind of exposure. But I apologize that you maybe got a. I mean, I don't even know where to. What I'm saying is, from here on out, just assume everything you hear in this show is opinions. The opinions expressed in this show are those of the participants and not those of anything that is fact. So rather than people wanting to sue me and take away a show that I think we all enjoy, from here on out, let's just assume everything is alleged and it might all be fantasy, but really maybe it's true. Or maybe I'm lying and it's all a fantasy. But all of this charade is so that we don't get called and don't get threatened with legal action. Hopefully I don't have to talk about this again moving forward. I love the honest takes. I love the honest opinions. I don't love lawyers. So probably saying that wasn't smart. Without further ado, maybe we should just jump into our first guest. That's right. Stick around the whole way through this show. We are going to have Elite Series champion Brock Mosley. But first up, Jake's Take with Jake Latendresse. We now go live or pseudo-live to Fort Collins, Colorado. Jake's Take. Jake, we have literally talked for 45 minutes before I hit record, so this show may suck.
That's why we started this podcast in the first place, because we talk a lot. I am back in Colorado. I went from sauna heat in South Texas to hoodie weather in Colorado. Thank goodness.
When I landed, it was back here in Toronto. It was, and I made sure to check this. It was 78 degrees. Perfect. Like I walked out and I'm like, oh, there's a crispness in the air. I don't feel like every pore of my body is and I put a post during the event and was like, this Texas heat is no joke. And of course, it's social media. So everybody that lives anywhere that ever gets hot has to chime in and be like, oh, it's not even hot. It was for freaking me. And it was for
me too.
Do you know who didn't say it was not hot during weigh-in? Anybody that was at the freaking weigh-in. It was freaking so humid, so hot. But my response to Joey Cifuentes called me out actually on social media. My response to him remains the same. I can't wait till we get up north and you guys tell me how big those waves are. And I'll be like, there's nothing. Those waves are nothing. But yeah, no, it was freaking hot. Like maybe the hottest tournament I've on the stage that especially the first and second day. First day was the worst. I think, I don't know. They all run in together.
Your stage was facing west too, right?
Oh yeah. And it's black. I mean, clearly that stage was designed by somebody who had never stood on a stage outdoors. So yeah, it was hot, but maybe, I mean, the hottest tournament I've ever emceed was probably Little Rock when we were right downtown Little Rock on the Arkansas River. Denny Brower won that, but it was pretty close. It was very, very toasty. That's gotta be tough on you guys. You know, I think it is on all of us. On Sunday, we all kind of look like zombies at takeoff.
I mean, it was so hot. The anglers and the
How
camera
hot
guys,
was it, Jake?
Dude, it was so hot that I could feel the sweat rolling down my spine into my butt crack. Sorry, but hey, that's how hot it was. You asked.
Yeah.
There were times where it was miserable, especially in some of those coves we were in where there was no wind, and it was sweltering hot. But, you know, as the guys were flipping, which a lot of people were, the fish were biting when it got hot and humid and sunny, and miserable for us was good for fishing. So, it is what it is, right? It was South Texas.
Yeah. And the people, once again, of Orange showed out.
Golly,
That area
that's
is
insane.
Could you imagine how big the crowds would be if they had bass?
What if we had the classic there and they had big bass?
Here's how we fix it. This is what we do, because I figured it out. I mean, we're gonna have to break a few laws, but we can fix it. We need to have a Toledo Bend tournament and do the weigh-in in Orange. And then a couple of 4 days worth of bringing fish back from Toledo Bend will fix that fishery up like that.
In a heartbeat, and turn them loose in the Sabine.
Why do you think they're as stunted as they are?
So I asked that question to a lot of people, not a lot, but 4 or 5 people. And the theories or the common theories are all very similar. One, as soon as the fish start getting some age under their belts, a hurricane comes in,
Yeah.
contaminates the fresh water with salt water, and they die. And the other interesting common response was a lot of them swim to the mouth. They go down to the mouth during their migration, and they get eaten by sharks and other predatorial fish that come in from the saltwater, dolphins, sharks, all kinds of stuff. So, they just don't get a chance to get any size to them. I mean,
Too hostile of an environment.
It's interesting too how some of the guys, all the camera guys, don't like it. None of the camera guys like it. But it's funny how some of the anglers hate it and some of the anglers love it, because they love those, like Bill Lowe and Matt Heron. They love that grinding tournament where you gotta find them, that it separates the men from the boys and all that stuff. But I got to tell you, from a cameraman perspective, I'm into the big, the big bag, big fish derbies. That's
I get
way
that.
more fun.
I get that. And there's something baked in us all without even thinking of it. There's a different response you have. I mean, a 2-pounder is a 4-pounder, whatever you want to turn it into. It doesn't matter, like, for the tournament. But there is something, it must be like baked into our instincts or something. Like, you don't think of this, but when you see somebody set the hook and a 6-pounder's head comes up, like, without thinking about it, that's different. And even though a 2-pounder in this situation, or a 4-pounder or a 5-pounder, means even more than the 6-pounder on any other fishery, it just doesn't give you the same. You know what I mean? It doesn't give you that same. But it, I think it was a great tournament. I think if you don't like forward-facing sonar, you loved that tournament, because it was hardly even a part of it. It was an old school fishing tournament. And it's weird. I go through waves with Orange. Like, I love Orange. I love the people. Like, there's some of the best hosts we've ever had. And every person you meet there, they just go out of their way. They're incredible. But this one was a grind for a lot of people. I think it's a bad time of year to have it. Weird. Like, in my opinion, schedule doesn't happen when it does, but I think it's really hot for the spectators. Although they still came out, but you'd see people just sitting there and sweating through their shirts, sitting. And I think it's tougher on the anglers because of the time of year it is. Not that the fishing's that much tougher. Yeah, it's hotter, but a lot of our anglers live in that heat. But I think it's tougher on them at a time of year. This is, 4 events left going into Sabine, 3 now. This is when the tempers and the disgruntlement starts, because a lot of anglers are not going to make the classic, or going to get eliminated from the Elite Series. There's a pressure on everybody. They're trying to win Angler of the Year. So and whenever we go to Sabine, no matter how good it is, 60% of the field, maybe 70% of the field's going to have a really tough time, a really, really tough tournament. Even people that make paychecks, because that's the kind of fishery it is. That's easier for an angler to swallow at the 2nd or 3rd stop of the year than it is the 6th. That was the only takeaway I had from it.
I agree. And some of those guys, a lot of the guys are, largemouth power fishermen, and we're getting ready to go up to the smallmouth world. While there's power fishing up there, it's not the same thing. And so if they're way behind right now in points, now they're really starting to feel the pressure with their families. It's career changing, or it can be. So, they're definitely starting to feel, and you can tell, like you said, this is the time of year when it always comes up, and you feel for those guys too, because they work so hard. They're living a dream, and yet at the same time, it's like, hey man, you know, winning solves everything, right?
Every problem in bass fishing, it seems, sponsors not paying you enough, catch more bass. It'll get better.
Exactly.
Not getting enough coverage, catch more bass. It's horrible, but it's true. It answers not having a good time at the Sabine River, catch more bass. Like, you never see somebody in the top 10 that walks across the stage in that crazy crowd and says, yeah, let's not do this again. They all, like, they make Saturday and Sunday, and it's like that tournament, it switches because it's like, this is why we do it. I mean,
Exactly.
It's incredible.
I think too, Saturday, it doesn't matter if it's a big power giant bass derby, or the Sabine River, or Winyah Bay, or something like that. Saturday and Sunday always gets really competitive. And unless someone just completely blows the field away, like Caleb Kufal did at Gunnersville or something like that, it always gets nail biting. And even if the fishing is slow or the weights are small, there's still this intensity that occurs on Saturday, but then even more so obviously on Sunday, because there's so much at stake. It doesn't matter at the end of the day. It doesn't matter what kind of fishery on, because it's intense, right?
That's one of the things that impresses me most about our champion. I mean, Brock has made the final day twice before. Once when it was a 12 cut, and once when it was a 10 cut that he finished second in the last time we were here. And obviously won this one. It says a lot about Brock Mosley to do that. I mean, maybe the most consistent, because if you look at Hackney, he's won there, but his track record outside of that isn't great. I mean, Jason Christie was the one who pointed that out. And Jason Christie said, I won here, but I don't think I've ever weighed 10 pounds another time. It's really hard to stay consistent there. And Brock Mosley has stayed consistent, but stayed consistent by going to totally different areas every single time. Once it was Houston, once it's Taylor's, once it's right there at takeoff. So it says a lot about Brock as an angler. And finally, Brock Mosley is an Elite Series champion, man. I was nervous going into weigh-in like that. What do I say to him if it doesn't happen this time?
Oh my goodness. I think I talked to several people there side stage, if some of his family members, friends that were hanging out. We were all under the gooseneck part of the media trailer, staying out of the rain there, right when weigh-in was about to start. And I was with Brock Mosley's family and friends there. They were all gathered. They were all wearing his jersey and all that stuff. And, and it came up in conversation. What if, because someone said Clark Wendlandt has bigger fish than everyone thinks he does.
He always does. He always
does.
Did. It was almost a pound different, like 15 ounces. He was light, right. But he's always light on his weights.
And we didn't know if he was a pound low or 2.5 pounds low, which would have made it really, really interesting. So, the conversation came up. Well, what if Clark ends up winning this and Brock comes in second again? And I'm just sitting there going, how do you deal with that? Then the topic of Dan Marino never winning a Super Bowl comes up again.
No, but if you look at it too, dude, I know Brock's got 5 seconds, but Clark Wendlandt's never won the league. Clark Wendlandt's never won a Bassmaster tournament. Like, Clark Wendlandt is one of the most decorated pros out there, consistency-wise, but he's never won a bass tournament. So, actually nobody, that was weird. I don't remember the last time that literally our entire top 10 had never won an Elite Series event. Do you remember a top 10 where there wasn't at least one?
I don't. Brandon and I talked about that on the way to the airport Sunday night. And I don't remember any time that there was a whole top 10 that had never won. But then again, to defend that, I guess, we also gotta remember this is year 5 into the flip, and a lot of people came up out of, the opens or FLW or wherever they came from. So, for years to come, there's going to be a lot of firsts that we encounter along the way, right?
Yeah, but I mean, there's still a lot of people who have won. You know what I mean? To not have
True.
any of them in there is what shocks me. You know what I mean? Like I don't remember, but you're right. There's going to be a lot of firsts. But one of the things that we need to talk about at the event that we didn't even get to see, Josh Traishner never even got to fish the event, and what a weird turn of events for him. I've heard all different stuff, but basically what it ended up happening is, and there's some weird turns and weird stuff with this, but ultimately it's just a weird thing the way he couldn't, like, he got a fine for fishing without a license when he claims not to be fishing. I think it was on Oahe when he was up there scouting, and he wasn't fishing, he was graphing. Everybody, and I know that's hard. The weird thing in this story is that's hard for a traditional angler to accept. What? You go practice, but you don't plan on casting? Well, no, there's a lot of pros who literally don't want the distraction of putting rods in their boat because they will get distracted and fish. So they literally just idle. So he got a fine in South Dakota for fishing without a license, but he got it after he was off the water. I don't know how that's even a thing. Number one, I don't know how he didn't fight it. But I also get that too, because it's a fine. You know what I mean? You pay your ticket, move on. Like, I'm not going to fight it or whatever, but that's on his record. And there is, I wrote this down. What is the name of the rule? Hold on. Look at this. I did some research. You're impressed. There is a compact interstate law that involves 48 different states. So a lot of states are part of it, but very few states recognize it, I guess. So when you get a license infraction in one state, the other state can deny you the ability to buy a license. So he paid his fine in South Dakota, thought it was in the past, shows up in Orange, Texas, ready to fish this tournament, tries to buy a Texas fishing license. Actually, I think he showed up in Orange. I think that's how it went down. I don't know if he realized it beforehand. And everything's allegedly on this show moving forward, just so you know. He was denied to buy a Texas state license. So if you don't have a license, you can't compete. I mean, you're breaking a state law. I've heard some people online being like, why didn't Bass turn a blind eye? Well, Bass can't, because
that's a rule.
Could you imagine? You imagine Brock Mosley finished second to Josh Traishner in this tournament, and then he finds out afterwards, well, Bass turned a blind eye. Like, you need a license, but whether you agree with licenses, disagree with licenses, whether you think that there should be a countrywide license, which I've heard a lot of people say, all these things, none of that matters. You need a license to compete. At the NPFL earlier this year, a guy lost a tournament because of not having a license. So I don't think that Bass had a choice. I don't think that Josh had a choice. I think it's just a really crappy situation. And that cost, you want to talk about cost, whatever the fine was, let's say it was $100. Well, it cost him $5,000 in entry fees, because, I mean, those don't go back to you. I mean, that goes into the pool for the anglers, and
it's a donation.
And Josh understands that. So that is a painful lesson, never mind the points and everything else that he's going to be dealing with, but a real weird story.
So I have a story, goes way back to my uncle. My dad's side of the family comes from South Dakota. And my dad was born and raised there. Of course. And I would say about 15 years ago, my uncle Don was fishing up on Lake Wabe, which is up in the south, or the northeast corner of South Dakota. Okay. And he was walking down, he was unloading his bucket, his minnow bucket, his fishing rods, and a game warden stopped behind his truck in the parking lot and asked him for his fishing license. And my uncle Donald, being he's not sarcastic, he's a jokester, but he's not really one to defy authority. But in this situation, he turned and looked at the game warden. He goes, "Well, I'm not fishing." And the game warden says, "Well, you're about to go fishing." And he goes, "Yeah, but I don't have to show you my license until I'm fishing. I'm not fishing. I'm unloading my gear. So if you want to walk down to the bottom of the dam when I get down there and I cast a line in the water, you're welcome to come check my fishing license. But until then, you don't have the authority to check my license." So I parallel that with what happened to Josh, because if he wasn't fishing, again, you said it first, why did he get a ticket? And for him to not fight that, in my opinion, he should go. Now that what has happened, I would go fight that, because if he wasn't fishing, then there's no reason why he should have gotten fined for that. And I based on my uncle's experience, he opened my eyes to something about that. And you know, if you're not fishing, you're not fishing.
Yeah. And this is even, I mean, dude, again, allegedly.
Sure. Disclaimer.
I'm hearing basically what happened too is he went to a restaurant to have dinner at a bar, and he said, "Look at you with the Logan Paul Prime drinking.
My
Those things are like $12 a bottle, dude.
You can't find that.
How much do you get made for this crap? Do we pay you?"
My kids love those things. You can't find them in stores anyway.
So he had mentioned that he was on the water as far as I know, bartender says, "You been out fishing?" He said, "Well, yeah, I was on the water, but I wasn't fishing. I'm here pre-fishing for this event or whatever." Allegedly, again, bartender friend with game warden shows up at hotel after, like, the fishing's done, the scouting, whatever is done, and that's why he got the fine, as far as I've been told. So everything's alleged, but I feel bad for him. I feel bad for the whole situation, and I think it's a learning lesson for everybody. Again, like how important a little thing like that can screw you over, but I'm telling you, I bet you it happens to a lot. They go to a lot of states. I mean, not that they don't buy a license, but I'm sure there's times where that's why it's a question they ask in the lie detector test. Did you have a license? Do you have a license? Did you have a license during pre-fish? But yeah, a really weird situation. And it screwed him over. So that's the skinny on Josh Strachner, as far as I know. I have asked, is he fined for the rest of the events? And I've been told that not only can he buy a license in those states, he has already procured said license. So he will be part of the Elite Series moving forward. He just missed that event, which hurt him, I'm sure, because he probably would have done well there too, his style of fishing. But
so to clear the rules, or what happens when
shouldn't even talked about the bartender. That was too much info. You get sued again.
Well, I'm thinking of Mobridge, thinking the bartenders at Mobridge. That's a weird place.
Yeah.
But anyway, so to clear the questions on the rules there. So when you get DQ'd from an event like that, say before day one even starts, do you get zeros all the way through, or how does that look?
Yeah,
Okay,
I mean, it's like not catching a fish.
Yeah.
I mean, you're zeroed, so you take 0 points and move on. And I mean, it's just a real weird, crappy situation. Like I don't know, and I don't know enough of the details. Like there's part of me that feels like that if he had fought it, it could have got expunged or whatever the term is from his thing, and then he could have bought a license and be fine. And I'm sure he would have if he had that offer. But I am the world's worst procrastinator, and I know there's been speeding tickets and things I've been given over the years where I'm like, I'm gonna fight this, and then 14 days later when it comes due or whatever, I'm just like, here's my credit card, and you know what I mean, like just because you don't have time to deal with it,
right?
So I could
pay it,
see
move on.
How that would happen.
I don't really know him very well, but he's kind of a quiet, unassuming person anyway, right? That's his personality. He's a quiet dude. So it's like he just, okay, well, whatever. I'm just going to pay my fine and move on.
I just don't see how you can give somebody a fine I mean, because they have a boat and said they were on the water. Like, how do you know he wasn't wakeboarding? Like, how do you know? I mean, dude, that's literally like me like if I had a bitchin' car outside, like if I had some sports car, my brand new Corvette is sitting there and I go outside and I put on my driving gloves and I get ready to go out and I'm revving the freaking engine in my driveway and it looks like I'm going to speed. And a cop comes up and he's like, I know you're about to speed. Here's a ticket. Or, I mean, it's just, it's oddball, but let's move on and talk about this event. A great event, a great champion, great crowds. Orange, Texas is freaking awesome. You were with,
I got one for you. How about Larry Nixon?
Well, it's one of the coolest things about the tournament, dude.
Yeah,
having him in contention. I wanted him to make the top 10 so bad.
Me too. And so did probably most people out there were rooting for him to make the top 10. But that was really cool to see. And deep down inside, I was definitely rooting for him and watching him on Bass Track every day. You know, once he became a contender in that, thinking, man, I really hope he makes the top 10 because that would be so good for him, so good for the show. Everybody, man.
Yeah. I mean, there's nobody that wouldn't want to see Larry Nixon, you know, do that. And here's my weird little thing that I never said anything to anyone, but on day one, I introduced him as 15-time Bassmaster winner. He's only won 14, Jake. I knew it after it came out of my mouth. I'm like, you screwed up. So then he catches him on day one. I'm like, my God, I am a freaking future teller. But I didn't want to tell anyone because I'd screw it up. And then day two, he catches him again. And I told James Overstreet, and he didn't catch him on day three. So I'm sorry, Larry Nixon. It's my fault.
It's Mercer's fault. So we passed him. And this is probably a good topic to talk about too. You know, going upstream and whatever river, whether it was, you know, Taylor's Bayou or last year or 2 years ago, went up the Trinity with Lee Livesey and the Sabine. When you see, it was really interesting. At least this year it was, we passed people. And like, let's say on day one, we passed people going upstream and we'd come back 4 or 5 hours later, changing locations or going back towards the ramp or whatever it was. Those people who happened to be the people that did really well in this tournament were locked in on these very small microcosm locations where they were literally fishing the bank back and forth in really small sections, and that's where they were catching their fish. And it didn't matter if it was back, you know, in the bays closer to takeoff or upstream. That's what was going on this year at the Sabine River. People were catching them in very small microscopic locations. Really interesting.
Pipkins was the day one leader, and he, which is another, I mean, how awesome. Anytime Pipkins is in, I mean, we had Pipkins and Matty Wong. It was like a circle of happiness in our top 10. But to see Pipkins lead, and he said it on stage, he said, man, I just weighed in more today than I've weighed in the 8 previous competition days. And if you look at it statistically, wasn't quite, but it was pretty freaking close. But he's never done. I mean, he's had triple digit finishes there. It's just been a nemesis to him. So he had a big day one and rode that day one all the way through to Sunday. And it was good to see him do well, especially since we're heading north for the next 3.
He needed.
Who were you with? You were, well, I know who you were with, but for the show, for the optics of the show, I'll say, who were you with, Jake?
Lee Livesey. And while he didn't catch him to, you know, to be in the top 10 on day 2, he was surprised. I wasn't, because I was keeping up with Bass Track, but he was surprised that he ended up, you know, in the top. I think he ended up in the top 30 or top 35 with 6.5 pounds. The weights were a little bit lighter this time around than they were previously, as I recall. Because, I mean, what was the top 50? The cut line was like 6.25 or 6.5 pounds, right?
This time or the last time?
This time.
This
Last
time,
time it was
yeah.
like 8 or 9 pounds. This time it was 6.5, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. We're a little lighter, but I mean, we've had them. They're always kind of, but they're a little lighter, I'd say. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know why. Because you would think they wouldn't be, but Lee's mad at me. So I'll just apologize. Well, he went to that big, is it Randy Rogers? Randy Rogers?
Yeah, the concert.
And right after Wayne, I ran into him and got into a traffic jam. He has so many fans. That's a whole other story. You'll have to check out his YouTube series to see what happens there. See what I did there.
I see that.
But he was like, "You gonna go to the concert tonight?" And you know how I am once I get off the stage, dude. I'm all jacked up and I'll do anything. And I'm like, "Yeah, we're doing the concert tonight." So, and me and Overstreet stayed jacked up and said we were going to the concert. So we went to the concert and we sat on the Bassmaster stage of all things, which is at the polar opposite end of things. And it was a giant crowd. And we only ended up staying for 3 songs. Not because what happened was we sat down, that was the problem. We were all good.
Tired.
We're going to this concert. But we showed up there and it was still good. And then chairs were offered to us. So we sat down and then 2 songs later, we're like, "Yeah, you want to go?" So we left. And then Lee started texting me, said, "I thought you said you were coming," and blah, 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 blah. But in my defense, I woke up the next morning and I saw a video from Lee's camera person, Jesse, who Lee was with in the Waffle House just a mere 2 hours before I woke up for takeoff. And I was like, see, that's why I didn't. That's why I left after 3 songs because, but I thought Lee started off pretty decent, but he was shocked with the 6 pounds to be as high as he was.
I think he didn't even think he had 6 pounds. I think he thought he had like 5 something. He was going to end up out of the cut line. And then he was going to have to work that much harder to try to catch up, to cash the check, and fish on Saturday. But, he ended up, where did he finish? Like 24th or something?
Yeah, he made Saturday. I think mid pack, mid 50s. So, 24th, somewhere like that.
I think his whole year has been not so good day 1, figure something out for day 2 and start climbing the boards. He's done that all year. And I can't say every tournament, but as I follow, my friends on Bass Track all day long at every event and every day of every event. And I just remember, Lee not starting out so well at each tournament and just this has been a year of him figuring things out on day 2 and making adjustments, which is really interesting. He's good at that.
I'll tell you one thing he's figured out, dude. That the crowd response to Lee Livesey this week was phenomenal. Like, and to the anglers, they don't know because they hear the response that they get, and you don't, and even to the families, you don't get to hear it because if you're a family member and you're cheering for Lee, well, everyone around you's cheering. So it sounds like it, but on stage you get to really hear. And dude,
the roar,
his hard work is paying off because he is Mr. Texas, the mayor of Texas, whatever. The way they responded to him, I think also it's champ. The Louisiana thing. See, I'm weird with the People's Champ because he wanted the People's Champ, but I'm just like, it's kind of the most overused nickname ever. So like, I've never said it. Like and he's literally on the stage said, "I'm the People's Champ." And but I'm starting to come around. Like maybe he is the People's Champ, but 3 times a year we have someone tell us they're the People's Champ. So I guess it all just depends what people we're talking about.
Hey, when I do boat rides, I always do at least one boat ride video at takeoff out to wherever we're going for my social media. And then I put some, corresponding music track to it, and they get, a good response. But Lee's boat rides are always very aggressive because he's a race car driver behind the steering wheel there in his boats, whatever boat it is. And I always get a huge response from the people when Lee's driving and I'm videoing him. So he kind of is the People's Champ. Speaking of the crowd roaring, what about Caleb Summerall? He had a very big response from the crowd. He did really well.
Oh, yeah.
He needed that top 12 finish that he got. And he had a really solid tournament. Happy to see that.
Yeah, after day one being in 69th place, made a big comeback. So yeah, no, that was great to see.
Lots of big comes back. Maddie Wong came from 55th to 5th. Like there
Yeah.
was a lot of that. And that, I guess that's the beauty of these little, smaller fish grinding tournaments is if you catch them, you're never out of it. If you catch them, you can make huge jumps in tournaments like that.
Yeah, and everybody always looks at the big fish fisheries and says that's where you can make a jump. You go to Gunnersville, it's a lot easier to make a jump. And it's not the size of the fish, it's the ability to fail. There's a huge number that's going to fail. So it's not like he came in with 20 pounds. Like I think he weighed 12 something, but you make a giant charge with 12 pounds because
everybody
in between
4 pounds
you
less than they did.
Yeah. When you're in 69th and you move it up to 12th, everybody in between you didn't catch him.
Right.
But if you're like, for example, our next tournament, Lake St. Clair, the majority of the field's going to catch him. There's not going to be a lot of anglers without a limit. So that's really tough to make it back because now you got to catch, and whatever the mark is, like if everybody's catching 18 pounds, now you got to catch 25 to make that comeback. But a huge comeback. You mentioned Maddie Wong, but first time ever in the championship Sunday was Maddie Wong and Alex Weatherell. So congrats to them. And
Maddie Wong's fun. I like his
great.
Hawaiian, Pura Vida lifestyle and his whole, I like to follow him on social media because he's just fun. He's like a surfer dude in bass fishing,
Yeah. Well, dude, his life is, he's a world-class saxophonist. Like literally performs like, I don't know, Kenny G stuff. Like, dude, really? I'm talking like,
I did not know that.
Oh yeah. Like world-class musician, also a surf instructor at one time in his life. No joke. Taught the freaking Beckhams how to surf.
What?
The Beckhams. Yeah. Literally taught. Yeah. He's taught LL Cool J how to surf. Also, evidently you didn't watch this episode of the show that we had Maddie Wong on because we talk about all that. LL Cool J, he taught him. Yeah. His real name's Todd. Todd. We're different.
I'm calling him Todd.
Hey, Todd. But Maddie Wong has the life that he has lived is incredible. But he is one of those people that you just want him to catch him because you're like, this dude is just so good to be around. He's just such a good person.
Yeah, he's always positive, man. I don't know him very well. I'm starting to get to know him a little bit better. In every tournament, when we walk by each other, it's, it went from not acknowledging each other because we didn't know each other to, hey, how's it going? To, hey, man, how's it going? To now we're fist bumping. So I'm getting to know him better. And the more I know of him, the better I like him. He's a cool guy. He's like the rad dude on tour.
Much mahalo. Yeah. He was once in a Pizza Hut commercial. I'm thinking of all these weird things that I know about him.
I'm going to go watch your podcast with him right after this show.
We did it from Hawaii. We had horrible Wi-Fi, but there was chickens and stuff walking around in his parents' backyard. And it's
awesome.
It's cool. He's just he's a great person. Like he reminds me so much of Carl Jacobson. Like when Carl first came to the Elite Series, he had some weaknesses. And Maddie, and that's not an insult, but Maddie does not have the experience that some do.
He's you know what Hawaii.
I mean? From Hawaii, right? But he's got everything else. Like if he can just catch him good enough to stay here.
He just knows how to fish. He grew up in the ocean. The guy, he is a fish. He understands what goes on underwater. And now what's his background as far as bass fishing goes? He hasn't been doing it that long, has he? Like when he won the Bass Nation Championship, he hadn't been bass fishing that long, right?
No, I think he bass fished his whole life. He just not a lot of competitive, he lived in LA for years, so he kind of bass fished there and stuff like that. So he's got experience. Like it's just, there's having experience and there's having Elite Series experience. Yeah. Even people that are very experienced come to the Elite Series and it doesn't happen right away. So it's not easy. But I think he grew up fishing. And then when he moved to the States, you know, he did a lot of fishing in California and stuff like that. And, but man, literally he's the story. Like he had a 1990 bass boat with one working graph, and that's how he won the Bass Nation. And then he got, you know, a fully rigged boat as part of the nation's best deal where you win the Bass Nation, and became an Elite Series pro. And just like Carl, like I've said, I remember saying this about Carl, and it's funny just thinking about it. It comes out. There's moments, you know what I mean? Like there's a lot of people who come to the Elite Series and never have those moments. Matty Wong has had those moments. This is his biggest one, you know, his first top 10, but he's had cameras with him because he's caught him. You know, he's had big days, and that's how Carl started. You know what I mean? It was like Carl hammered him today, you know, but he didn't get him the next day, but he had moments, and that's very much the way Matty Wong is right now.
He's setting his building blocks up, you know, brick by brick, and he's learning to win opposed to, you know, becoming a choker or whatever. He's definitely learning to win. And him being from Hawaii, I mean, he's got that international feel to him. So coupling him with Carl Jochimson from Australia, all the guys from Japan, the Canadians, and then Matty Wong being from Hawaii. While Hawaii is the United States of America, it still seems like he's from, you know.
Oh, it gives it flavor. It gives it a little flavor.
I love the fact. I think you brought it up on stage, or someone brought it up, how, you know, bass has become such a worldly brand, a worldly scene, because of all that's going on, particularly with the Japanese guys.
Yeah, I mean, I made a joke about it on Sunday, actually, because it went from Matt Robertson to Matty Wong. And I'm like, if you don't see diversity in this, they're two totally different people. But you're right. Like, I mean, I talk about that all the time, like, and how the international flavor, whether it be the Canadians, the Japanese guys, the Australian, you know, the more people you have coming from different countries, the better. You know, the more it gives it it's just kind of a cool flavor to it. And I think it makes it more international, obviously. Speaking of international, who were you with on day 2?
I was with the guy with the coolest name on tour, I think. I don't know why his name just like, it's like a WWE wrestler from 1982 or something. Kenta Kimura. How cool is that? Kenta Kimura.
I mean, it's like nice.
Kamala. Like, it's just, I don't know. It's just got this, it's got this
WWE.
I know. I didn't either until I started saying his name. I was with him. I'm thinking, Kenta Kimura, that's a really cool name. So yeah. And he's a very interesting guy. He's a bit more seasoned with the English language than the other Japanese guys, even Taku Ito.
Yeah.
And something that I didn't know that I learned from Kenta was that when Takumi came over from Japan, he came over and fished the opens first and was Kenta's co-angler. Did you know that?
I didn't know that.
I didn't either until Kenta told me that. And then when Taku qualified after his first year in the opens, Kenta was like, what the hell? So we kind of talked about that in the boat. And I spent 3 days, day 2, day 3, and day 4 with Kenta. And he's a very smart angler. He is getting really good at adjusting, and I think we see it now in his tournament standings. While I think, you know, he's not in trouble with the classic qualification right now. You know, he's not doing as well as he thinks he should, but for some reason I feel like every time I turn around I see Kenta's name. He's doing well in the opens and he's doing well at the elite level.
Yeah, especially last 2 years. I mean, last 2 years he has really done very, very well. And I think he's doing good in the Elite Series. I mean, I think he's in the 20 something for Angler of the Year. Let's look. Wow. So give us the juice. People want to know what you saw. What exciting
His
stuff.
baits, just like all the other Japanese guys,
24th.
24th.
Yeah,
There you
it's
go. I
solid.
mean, that's
And we're heading
solid,
north where
solid.
he catches them generally up north too.
He's solid.
Yeah.
He develops baits for depths, and he was using this one bait, a topwater bait. I don't think he ever caught one on it, but he had a ton of confidence in it, and it's a cicada imitator, and I think it's called a kimura, not spelled like his name, but Kamuru, and it's made by Depths, and it looks like a cicada, and it's got these propellers for wings on both sides, and it's a slow retrieve, but it goes tick, 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 tick. And man, I had my camera zoomed in on that thing, and I was praying, I'm like, please blow up on this thing, just because I wanted to see a fish eat it, because it looked like a bat swimming on the water. So he didn't catch his fish with that. He caught most everything, on a 4-inch Senko Texas rigged, or a little flat bill crankbait, that a square bill crankbait that he was throwing, that he developed for depths. And he made adjustments. I mean, when fish weren't biting, he stayed in his little section, and he was right in there, as you could see, with Wes's drone shots and some of the coverage that we had. He was in the same pocket that Brock Mosley, Matt Robertson, Matty Wong, Hunter Shryock, and Kenta Kimura were all fishing in the same, like it was literally a circle. The beauty of that was Matt Robertson had his little section of bank to himself, because he was on the other side of a big barge that was parked. And then Matty Wong and Brock Mosley were sharing space, and they were literally going back and forth, literally like right beside each other,
Yeah.
and talking the whole time. And they were very accommodating to each other. Although I did hear, and again, this is just hearsay, but I did hear that Brock asked Maddie if he could have that bank for the first little while,
Yeah.
whether it's 30 minutes or an hour.
We called him
And
the night before.
And Maddie came in. We were there. We were in there, and Brock was already fishing, and Maddie came in and went all the way to the back of the cove where they were, sandblasting barges, and fished there for about 30 minutes or 45 minutes, and then came back to the bank where Brock was. And at that time, Brock had already caught his limit
Yeah.
with one good fish. Like, it was already like, Brock's going to win this tournament.
Yeah, that day 3 big bite that he got, which D Little,
Unbelievable.
Dalton Trumblin. Is that his last name? Trumblin?
Dalton Tumblin. Yeah.
Tumblin. I just call him D Little all the time. So I like it when you give people nicknames, it's horrible. You forget their actual name. Dalton Tumblin is a phenomenal shooter, but he got one of the coolest. I mean, I hope they use it for the cover, but that moment where like Brock's like screaming at the camera and the fish is under his
that like a loaf of bread. He's going, yeah. Matt, he got a picture of Matty Wong doing the same thing, and he had the opportunity to shoot both.
Yeah, he shot them both. Yeah.
Yeah. And Dalton has come a long way in a very short amount of time.
He's an incredible photographer.
Yeah,
All the staff, all good photographers.
So
we're
on
on
the other
side. So
side.
many of them there. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead.
We're on the other side of the cove on the opposite bank, and we're sharing space with Hunter Shryock, who has quickly become one of my favorite personalities on tour. That guy is super nice. He's badass because he came from the motocross world, and he does great social media stuff. He and his wife, Felicia, do. And he's just got he's got this contagious personality about him that I've come to like a lot in Hunter Shryock. Anyway, he was sharing the same bank with Kenta, and it was this, I don't even know how to describe it. It was these posts. I guess they were the base to probably a dock at one time, and the dock had washed away from a hurricane or whatever. So it was just the posts, but it had this this orchard feel to it, because all the posts were in a row going vertically and horizontally. So they could fish vertically or they could fish parallel, and the bank was sloping up, or the bank was sloping up into the shoreline. But when it got to the end of those posts, it dropped straight off into about 8 or 9 or 10 feet of water. So Kenta, he came in there and started throwing a frog, a really small popper frog, trying to get a topwater going. That didn't happen. So then he starts flipping that little Senko Texas rigged into the bank and found a little section where it was shallower and more sloping than the rest of the bank. And those fish were hanging out on the edges of it. So he started focusing on that little microcosm. So again, we were sharing about, I would say, a 200-yard stretch with Hunter Shryock, and Hunter took the western 100-yard half, and we took the eastern 100-yard half, and he narrowed it down literally to like a 10-yard stretch where he caught most of his fish. So
Wow.
I just, man, the stuff that we get to learn from these guys on the water is phenomenal, and how they pay such close attention to the details and everything going on, and how that affects their success or failures in tournament fishing. It is unbelievable how good these guys are.
Why do you think there were so many of them there?
I know where you're going with this.
I'm not going anywhere. I'm just asking you questions.
So there is question, and Kenta and I talked about this a lot. I did not talk about this with anyone else, just with Kenta in the boat, but it came up several times about whether those were recycled fish or not. Whether it was, where the bass release location was for that tournament on day one, or from prior tournaments that came out of, at the orange boat ramp there.
Yeah.
But I would say that you could tell when Kenta caught fish that were naturally spawned and hatched in that area. They were very clean. Everything about them was clean and fresh. And then the majority of the fish that he caught, and I think the same would go for Hunter and Brock and Matt and Matty Wong, you'd have to ask them, but I'd be willing to bet the same thing. A large majority of those fish had, superficial injuries on them, tails, um,
So they look like
damaged.
released fish.
What's that?
So they looked like they'd been
They
caught.
did. And a lot of the fish that Kenta caught had scars on their lips from other hooks. Again, who's to say that came from, prior days
Yeah.
of BASS anglers, or, they were just from a tournament a week prior to that or whatever. So
A lot of tournaments get won on unreleased fish. Moment of total honesty. Any of the stuff, the last I heard, I know me and Davey had talked about it, and Davey had checked with Bass and said, did we release fish here? I mean, nobody's in the wrong. I mean, how awesome is it if you've got a spot and all of a sudden more fish start showing up? It's not like they knew the location, but as far as I'm aware, Bass said that's not where they released the fish. So they must have been from another if they were released fish. But there was definitely a lot of fish in that area, and a lot of anglers. You look at how many that made the 50 and the top 10. It's shocking how many were in there.
And there were people coming and going. There were other anglers coming in and coming out, but the 5 people that had really been there consistently had established their locations. And I'll go back 30 minutes to what I'd said before. This was one of those tournaments where people were locked into these little microcosms. And again, it wasn't just there. It was all the way up Taylor's, Kenta
Taylor's
and I.
Bayou.
Yeah, Taylor's Bayou. On day 3, Kenta and I went up past everybody. Bernie Schultz was the very last most northern angler up Taylor's Bayou on day 3. And we went past him all the way up to the I-10 bridge, where this is really cool. Kenta found a drain, a concrete drain that was basically trickling water. I mean, there was a flow to it about like a kitchen sink, but it was bringing fresh water into this stagnant area under the bridge. And the bait fish were concentrated in there. The crayfish were concentrated in there. And that's where Kenta found his day 1, day 2 bags of fish in that exact spot, which is why we started out at the ramp, close to the ramp on day 3. And then we made the run all the way up there. And it was a little over an hour ride up there to the I-10 bridge in Taylor's Bayou. And he started throwing that little flatbill crankbait that he had. He caught his 5 fish limit up there, and we turned around and came straight back to launch and never caught another. Well, he did. He caught some other small fish, but he never upgraded after that. So that was a really, really smart move. But then, unbeknownst to what I would have thought, what I thought was going to happen, I thought on day 4 we were going to go back up there, catch a limit, come back down and try to catch a bigger fish. But instead, he went for the win and never went up Taylor's Bayou, knowing he probably could have caught a small 6-pound limit up there, but stayed in that cove where he had concentrated on the afternoon of day 3. It was again, Kenta, one of the things he told me, was a really interesting part of our many discussions we had on the water. But every time he made a move and went somewhere thinking, okay, I'm going to make this decision to adjust to what's going on, thinking it's too crowded up Taylor's Bayou. It's too crowded in that cove where all those other guys were. I'm going to go over here thinking no one's going to be there. Perhaps I'll run into a pod of decent fish in there, 2-pounders, right? He would go there and there would be 3 or 4 other boats in there. And so what he brought it up, what his explanation was, see, in the opens, this doesn't happen. When I adjust, the difference between the opens and the elites at the competing level of anglers is, in opens, when he makes a decision, he goes there, no one else is there. Maybe
He's adjusted
else
before anyone.
Hackney's there or Steve Kennedy's there because they're elite guys, but he would make those adjustments and typically have his thought to himself and make that adjustment. In the elites, he has this thought, and then he goes there and he's like, see, everyone's thinking the same thing. Everyone is on not the same page together, but everyone thinks the same way because they're so tuned into what's going on. Did that make sense, or did I confuse you?
No, it totally makes sense. I mean, I just think it's a step up in competition. You've got, and it's, I mean, it's not just window dressing. When you hear pros on stage say, man, these guys always catch them. These, this, they're not just saying that. It's like you watch when people come and they're
world class.
It's a level up. Like there's levels to every type of competition, but it is a level up. I mean, the opens are a lot tougher in many ways. There's a lot more boats and stuff, but like he's saying it himself, like the reason pros are forced to adjust on the Elite Series is because they know if they don't adjust, they're not going to make the cut. They know that they can't just ride what they had into the weekend because the others are adjusting. You know what I mean? So it's like iron sharpens iron, your training partners in boxing, you want strong training partners. You don't want to, and that's, I think, what he means by that, but that's pretty neat. Let me ask you the tough questions. How many energy drinks did he have in a day?
Specifically Red Bulls?
Yeah. How many are we talking?
At least 4 a day. And he smokes too.
How many packs a day?
2. But to his defense,
how does he get that many time to smoke that much?
Half of those cigarettes have to be put out as soon as he lights them because we go live. It
must be very frustrating.
He's like, he lights one. He goes, "Are we live?" And then I'll say, "No, you're good." And he'll reach in his pocket, get his pack out, put his cigarette in and light it and take 2 puffs out of it and go, "Kenta, they're coming to you live in 10 seconds." And then he'll have to put it down. So he's got a full Red Bull can in the front of his boat. He runs a Bass Cat, a Cougar, and it's narrow at the front. And under his graphs, he's got a Red Bull can for cigarettes, like an ashtray, and then another Red Bull can that he drinks out of. So one of them, the one on the left is his ashtray. So as soon as I say, "Okay, Kenta, we're going live," he literally leans down and stuffs a whole cigarette in there. And if I say, "Kenta, we're going to go live in 45 seconds," he'll take a deep drag off of his cigarette.
The whole thing.
And bust the cherry off in the Red Bull can, and then save the rest of his cigarettes for when he goes off live. He is so cool. I love
very
Kenta
cool.
Kimura. I've been with him a couple times before. Like I had him at Harris Chain last year. And we didn't really talk that much, but this time around we talked a lot, and I enjoyed his company. I enjoy his sense of humor. I enjoy his character, and he's very conscientious about trash, like not in his boat.
Hey, he's not
but
throwing the cigarette butts out. A lot of people do that.
He wouldn't even ash. He wouldn't even ash in the water. He ashed in his can. He put everything, like when he, listen to this.
He's not an ash hole.
No, he's not an ash hole. That's good. That's a good one.
My level of cheese knows no limits.
He's on the far east end of his little 100-yard section on day 4, and he cast that little square bill, and he just breaks. He's not like, I mean, he tries to save as many baits as he can, but he's quicker to break one off than most of the anglers that I know are. He just breaks
he
it
won't
off.
Flick his ashes, but screw that.
He'll break it off because he's trying to save time. Okay. And he's so quick, like he's literally a knot ninja. So he'll get his crankbait and he threads his line through and he's done. And he's back. Like he is a super fast knot tire.
Wow.
So he snags this little square bill and he's trying to get it off. He's popping his line, trying to get it off. And this time he's like, "I'm going to save it." So he goes over to it and he reels it down to the end of his rod and he's poking it in there, trying to get it out, and he can't get it out. So he's trying to break it off. And when he does, he pulls this rope up, this big, not a barge rope, but a pretty good size rope. He pulls it up and there's 3 of his other crankbaits that are on there. And he pulls it like a trot line and he gets all of his baits off. They're all brand new too.
Wow.
It was so, I can't express enough how much fun I had in Kenta Kimura's boat. He's a cool dude, man.
He is. It's funny. I don't remember who it was, but we were talking about the smoking thing. I remember we were in Florida. It might've been the Harris Chain. He might've made the top 10 at the Harris Chain. None of those details matter.
No, he did. Yes, for sure.
So I remember it was Championship Sunday. It might have been you, dude, that somebody told him no smoking or anything. And it was at takeoff.
It was
and
me.
It might have been you because I might have told you. Like
he was pulled down at the bank and he was leaned over.
Yeah, he's Peggy Bundy in it. He's just got it hanging out of his lip.
That was me and you, yeah.
So you said something to him, and I'm watching the conversation, and he just goes. All of a sudden, he couldn't understand English. Zona started calling him the Sandman.
Zona was Zona was texting me because Zona was texting me on day 3. Telling me, like, tell Kenta he's one of my favorite people on earth. And then tell Kenta that I enjoy working with him more than anyone else I work with. Zona loves Kenta Kimura. He does.
Really?
And he was calling him the Sandman because he steals everyone's dreams.
Yes.
That's why he
sneaks up and mesmerizes you with his tournament jersey. And he turned it into like he's explaining to me, and I'm like, he's like, sprays the mist and he distracts you, and next thing you know, and I'm like, it sounds like Asuka from the WWE, who is now the ladies champion. That's how much of a geek I am. WWE. I know these things. And she blows the Asuka dust in their eyes and distracts them. Well, Kenta, according to Zona, does it with his jersey. And I mean, when Zona tells me somebody's a Sandman, I responded, well, Sandman he shall be from here on forward. So the
I just
Sandman,
think he's almost like a cartoon character, like a Japanese cartoon character, where he's got longer, he's letting his hair grow out. He takes his hat off, and he's running a bass cat, so we're running 70 plus, and his hair's just going, and it's just like, I don't know, it's surreal being in the boat with him. I love that guy.
yeah, I don't even know how to tell this story and not sound bad, but I mean this with all the greatness, all the niceness I can.
Okay.
But so just explaining Kenta, like, he shocks me with so many things. Like, one day after the tournament this week, I mean, every area has some rougher areas, every town in the world, right? So I'm
Sure.
on a call. So I'm just like driving aimlessly on this call. Like, you just keep driving just because I'm on a call, right? I'd rather than park at the venue. So I'm driving and I'm go through kind of a rougher neighborhood, and whose truck do I see like at like this seafood place? Like, but it looks like I'm like, and I swear to you, I mean, there might be the nicest people on earth, but it does, you know what I mean? Like, if well, let's put it this way: if you stopped there and got shot, and you told the story, and then you showed pictures of where you stopped, they'd be like, well, no wonder you got shot, you idiot. Kent is in there eating. I mean,
he's like that. He's like that.
He's a man of the people. Maybe he's the people's champ.
He might be. Brandon Fiend, one of the other camera guys.
Happy 21st birthday.
I was just going to say that.
Oh, sorry.
On his birthday, before your concert that night.
I saw him there.
I know you did.
He had a giant belt buckle on.
Oh, Lee Livesey sent me a little video of him. He was dead. That was definitely his 21st birthday. But anyway, he'd never eaten crawfish before, particularly that Southeast Texas, Louisiana style, right? So we go to this town, Bridge City, which was about 20 miles away, and we go to this place called the Crawfish House. And we eat our crawfish and had a great time, drank some beers. And then we came back, and I was worried about my gut. Like, my GI,
we know.
Yeah.
And I was going to be with another championship Sunday.
Yeah.
Another
this
Japanese
time
guy.
I know. I'm thinking, this is a correlation. I got a remedy for all that anyway. But anyway, so I get in Kenta's boat, and we get to our first, the cove, and we start talking about food. And I was asking him, like, where he lived. He goes, I don't have a house. I live in my camper. And so we started talking about his lifestyle in the US and how he's very nomadic. He's got a storage unit in Oklahoma. When he goes back to Japan for 2 months out of the year, that's where he leaves it. And then when he comes back, he just lives in his camper. And he's got a cool setup. It's very basic, but it's very cool.
Yeah.
So I said, well, what do you do for food? He goes, he's talking, last night I went to crawfish. I said, oh yeah, so did I. And so I started asking him about all these crawfish boil places. And he goes, oh yeah, I've been there. Oh yeah, I've been there. And I said, I bet you haven't been to this place because it's kind of off the beaten path. And he goes, what is the name of it? I said, the Crawfish House. He goes, oh yeah, it's over by the baseball fields in Bridge City. And I went, he loves seafood. He loves crawfish. He doesn't eat much Japanese food when he's here because he likes to enjoy the local cuisines, which explains why he goes to these places. I'm going to follow him around when we get to St. Clair and Detroit. I'm going to follow him around and see where he goes there.
Yeah. And his camper that like, it does look basic. It's like a little, but allegedly it is like the whatever you want to compare it to, but it is the bitchin' camper to have. Like,
it's cool.
High dollar. But it looks kind of small, but I guess it's super.
It's got a pop up on top.
Yeah.
It's an Outlander style, which is very popular these days. And the top pops up. It's not a lean-to pop up. The whole thing pops up on gas struts. And he put a literally a 110 small air conditioning unit in the back wall. So now he's got air conditioner. I said he has a goose down blanket that he sleeps under. And I said, doesn't it get hot in there? He goes, no, I put the air conditioner on the back wall. And I said, well, does that keep it pretty cool? And he goes, oh yeah, now it's too cold.
He is he's something special. But yeah, no, his camper is the one to have, like the one you don't see, I guess. It's just super expensive, but good for him. Good for him.
Yeah.
There was a lot of wow, so many Kenta stories. Just I didn't expect to hear all this much of it. Anything else?
Yeah.
Give me more.
Let me tell you
Give
how
me
he
more.
caught us. He didn't catch a
Oh,
winning
fishing.
bag.
We're going to talk about fishing?
Yeah.
That's
Let's talk
weird
about
for a fishing podcast.
Bass fishing. He didn't catch obviously the winning bag on Sunday, but he did make an adjustment. His Texas rig worm and even his crawfish Texas rig wasn't working, like zero. And he wasn't seeing the fish up in the shallow swimming around. They're all suspended out in front now, right?
Okay.
So he starts throwing a frog on top to try to get him to come up. That didn't work. Then he picks up his square bill and starts parallel casting it down the edge. And that's how he caught, I would say he caught 12 or 13 fish on day 4. And I would say 10 of them came on that square bill. So, he makes micro adjustments and in the same spot where a lot of people would say, well, these fish are gone. They're just not here anymore. And he makes little small bait adjustments and technique adjustments and starts catching them again. Pretty cool.
Yeah, he was it Murray where he was throwing the riser? I think, yeah, the way he was fishing a riser there, which, I mean, they all, whether it's a Japanese angler, an American angler, they all bring, like, that's the cool thing about the Elite Series. They all have like these little nuggets. I think that's why collegiate anglers are getting as good as they are. Because if you think about it, like a really smart school like Bethel, they bring people from the north, from the south, from the west, and they've got pros, or call it not pros. They've got college students.
It's recruiting, like a football team.
So you think about it, it doesn't matter what it is. Let's just say you're from the north and you have ultimate confidence in a drop shot. And when you have that bait in your hand, you feel like you're going to catch them. When you make the Elite Series, it takes forever to get those little nuggets out of everybody. But when you're in college, that's the one time in your life when you're working with all these guys and you show them. So you impart like exactly how you move it, your confidence in it, everything. This is the bait. This is the hook you need. These are the different colors you should throw.
The speed ratio on the reel, the rod,
it's all been figured out for you. You don't have to put it together. So then that's got you covered for a drop shot. But the guy that's just learned about a drop shot, he might be from down south and he's used to flipping in dirty water. Well, he teaches that, you know what I mean? So each angler comes with, let's say, 3 things that they're incredible at. But as 3 of them get together, now they have 9 things they're incredible at. You know what I mean? And that's why I think those guys are so, but when you get the Elite Series, it's so hard to get those, like nobody giving you nuggets. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like you're learning this stuff watching him.
Right.
It's not like he goes in at check-in and starts showing people how he throws a crankbait.
And some of the little, those guys, I say those guys, the Japanese guys, they bring techniques from Japan.
Oh yeah.
To the United States, baits, equipment, knowledge, philosophy, all those things. Right. And the interesting thing about Kenta's, I think even his square bill set up, for sure, his Texas rigs, he had braid, 25-pound braid with 20-pound fluorocarbon leader on it. That's how he threw everything. So, he believes that it makes a difference to use heavy fluorocarbon even when he's flipping in cover.
Slow down the bait.
That and it's not as visible, like the line's not as visible to the fish, particularly if they're high pressured fish. So he's got different
than braid.
Right, than braid.
Yeah, okay. I got you. Yeah.
So it was, again, I can't even emphasize how how enjoyable and how interesting from a brain's perspective it is to be in the boat with these guys, and how much you learn at every single tournament. Whether, if they're not doing well, they always make these little adjustments, and these little adjustments are based on successes they've had that would parallel an experience they've had that they're in at the moment. So they make that adjustment, and all of a sudden they start catching fish in the same spot. You're like, this is brilliant.
Very
It's
good
cool.
stuff.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Now we get a little time off.
Yeah. What are you going to do?
Fish. I'm fishing. I got to
Me
shoot
too.
shows. I got to go do my real job now, believe it or not. And this isn't my real job either. I mean, I got to go make TV shows. And one of the shows that I'm supposed to be on next week just got canceled because of the wildfires we have in the East Coast of Canada and all over the place. So, and the West Coast, there's fires. It's really dry. It's really dry. And I mean, where we were supposed to be going is about 110, 120 miles away from anything, but it's more preventative because it's that dry and there isn't supposed to be any rain for a while. So, like I said, I'm far from it, but outside of my house right now, you smell smoke. Like you smell it. It's the haze, like the sun is red. It's wild, but thoughts and prayers with all those affected. I mean, I don't mind the smell and the smoke. It could be a lot worse to be involved in stuff like that.
The Western fires up in, I guess, British Columbia or Alberta. Yeah. We were socked in for 2 weeks. We were socked in with their smoke and some ash that was airborne that had come in with the northwest winds in Colorado. And ironically, we've been in about a 7-year drought here. We're having one of the wettest springs I can ever remember in the state of Colorado. And we have hail we've had hail every single afternoon for the past month. Like at 2:00 or 3:00 in the afternoon, go ahead and get your vehicles in the garage because it's gonna hail, and it does. We had a hell of a hailstorm last night.
Is your car insured when it gets all beat up by hail? How does that work?
It is. We are fully insured. I've actually had a Tundra prior to the one I had before I got my new truck now that got totaled in a hailstorm, and it drove fine. It just looked like a golf ball.
I had a rental car once that got demoed. We were in Texas and it got like,
I
couldn't believe it while I had it and I returned it and they never said anything. I mean,
they just got
thought I picked it up like that, didn't I? I mean, I thought that was the finish on it. It was pitted like a golf ball. I'm going to have Brock Mosley on. I'm going to talk to, I mean, you know how I am. I don't like to champ chase, but I want to have these guys. I'm getting yelled at people by winners for not having them on, but we also want to do Jake's take. So I'm going to try.
It's an expectation now, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, and I'm thankful that they want to come on, but I'm going to try and do this. So what questions you got for Brock Mosley? Give me something.
Brock and I talk. We never talk about bass fishing, but we talk about bow hunting a lot. He's a big bow hunter and whitetail hunter, and he was going to come out to Nebraska and hunt with me a few years ago. It just didn't work out. So now we're talking about trying to find him a place to hunt somewhere else in Nebraska. And so he and I, our commonality between the two of us and our friendship rests on the bow hunting concept. But I was really, really happy to see Brock win. He's been the bridesmaid, 5 times?
5 times.
And this was kind of a close call. There was some expectation or there was some intensity going on at the final weigh-in on Sunday, not knowing whether Clark Wendlandt had actually caught him or not. And not to mention the big fish that Clark lost on day 4. Didn't he lose a big fish?
Yeah, he lost a big one.
Yeah. It seems to always be the case. I mean, that's part of the budget, right? Spilled milk.
Yeah. He but I mean, Brock's been there before where he's lost it. I mean, one of the coolest things was Brock's mom's shirt. I don't know if you saw it, but I'd always call him a 5-time Elite Series bridesmaid, which for that person at times probably gets frustrating. But 5 seconds isn't. But there's a reason I say all stuff like that, and it's because people need to know this. Like, well, Brock's victory this week meant more to everybody because they know how many seconds he had. But his mom had made a shirt, and I guess she told me she had it for like a year, and it just says bride across it. So
there you go.
Brock was finally the bride, and you didn't give me a question for him or anything. You just gave me
I'm trying to think of a question, but I'll say this too. One of the happiest people for Brock, and he mentioned him on stage, was Smokey from Dakota Lithium.
Stormy?
I'm sorry.
You were with
Smokey. Yeah, I was with Smokey. Yeah. Stormy from Dakota Lithium was super happy. Like,
yeah.
I turned and looked at him after you announced Brock the winner, and he was just ecstatic about the whole thing.
Stormy is what you want in a partner, to be honest, as a sponsor. I mean, Stormy and Brock have worked together for 6 years now, I think. It really, I mean, that when Brock went out of his way, he said, "Hey man, like this is half yours." And he truly meant that. And then, Stormy's a great dude, and their relationship was really cool to see. It was a real Jerry Maguire moment. They did it.
That's a great analogy. Analogy.
It's what it felt like. And good for Stormy. Hey, here's another congratulations. How about nobody talking about it, but 5 out of 6 Elite Series tournaments this year have been won out of a Phoenix Bass boat. Literally the only winner we've had all season long that wasn't in a Phoenix was Will Davis.
And Gussie.
That's not an Elite Series event, Jake. That's the Bassmaster Classic.
Okay.
Remember all the people in the arena?
I consider it to be an elite event. It's not an Elite Series event.
How many? Okay, so then I would be out of 7.
Okay, there you go.
I'm trying to plug my freaking sponsor here, Jake. I mean, you kicked off with the Prime bottle. I'm sure you're getting paid by them. I'm trying to give Phoenix a little love.
Who?
One of the coolest things, and I don't get to watch a lot of his stuff, but one of the coolest things that they actually do on the Impulsive podcast, which is Logan Paul's podcast, is like, if you plug anything, like if you're like, "Hey man, I really like these glasses," they in post-production put a Prime bottle over it. So you're always promoting Prime, no matter what.
That sounds like something they would do.
Yeah.
So a question for Brock, maybe what was Brock? I don't even know. What was he catching them on? He was flipping.
Yeah, he was flipping. Just, like that's what was the difference between him and Maddie. Like, I think they fished close to each other, but they were cranking. Maddie was cranking a lot more. So we're going to get into that with Brock. I'm looking for some creative questions here.
Sorry. How did it feel to find? Well, you're going to ask him that too.
Oh my God.
What question do you have?
Well, why don't we find out? Coming up right now, Brock Mosley. That was smooth.
Perfect.
That was a freaking smooth transition. Smooth. Really good stuff. Really good stuff. Finally, the Brock is a Bassmaster Elite Series champion. Dude, how did that feel?
Relief. It was a stressful day till 3 o'clock. And as soon as I checked in, I pulled out my phone and I looked at Bass Track and I was like, I got it. But until then, I was like, I don't know.
I kind of hate that you guys are able to look at that.
I know.
Like, and I know at that moment, like, you really probably wanted to look at it, but would you be in favor I don't think they could make it like a DQable offense, but if they just had like an agreement that nobody looks at it on the final day, just because I just think that's just such a special moment. I mean, it was a special moment regardless, but I think every little bit of doubt that you can roll into that weigh-in with makes it even more special. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I would be in favor of cutting it off at like noon.
I love you.
I mean, I'm just saying it. I mean, every event, classic included.
Yeah.
It builds the suspense, of who's got what.
Yeah. And it also, the other thing that happens that's evil that nobody ever talks about is there's dudes that don't win tournaments that are told they won tournaments. Like I've had several people say to me, like, I didn't think I had enough. Chris Johnson's one of them. The first time when Micah beat him on the St. Lawrence River, he didn't think he won the tournament, but he checked in and he had people telling him congratulations, media people asking to do videos with him and stuff. And the next thing he knows, Micah weighs 25, 26 pounds or whatever it is.
Kind of like
he's
me
kicking stones. Yeah.
I mean, I got in and everybody had thought, I had won it. But they wasn't sure how big Bill Lowen's 8-pounder was. They said, well, is it a 6? Is it a 7? And, it was the same deal there. That was the one that I really thought, I had won it. Everything kind of went right the last day, but he ended up beating me. Wasn't no losing it. He just flat out beat me and made it easier to swallow. Plus coming from Bill Lowen, I mean, Bill Lowen, he deserved it.
Yeah.
I mean, he's one of my favorites. That's for sure.
I noticed that he did hang around and made sure to come up and hug you. You hadn't even made it back to the stage, which, just so you know, your celebration was freaking awesome. And I encourage all of you.
I bet the media people were not happy.
Who cares? They can wait 10 minutes.
That was my moment. I may not have another one. I mean, if it takes me 5 second place finishes to win one, then that means I got to get to 10 second place finishes before I win another one.
Yeah. I don't think anyone was that upset. They want to get the first, and they're still going to get the first interview. That, it's the Bass media folks. But I think that, I mean, look at that way. And we had a bunch of people that stood in a rainstorm.
Right. Exactly.
Bring the trophy to the people because they're what made your moment.
They earned it too. Yeah, exactly, man. And they showed out. I mean, Orange, Texas showed out. People may say, well, man, the fishing's not good. It's not that the fishing's not good. I mean, I caught 30 fish a day most days. It's just that the fish are just small. I mean, it's like going to St. Lawrence. I mean, you catch a 3-pounder there, that's not going to do you a whole lot for you. I mean, that's just the way it is. I mean, but a 15-incher on the Sabine is like a 4-pounder on the St. Lawrence. It's just, that's the way you got to look at it.
Did you fish this event any different because of your previous experience? Like, I mean, your track record at Sabine's pretty incredible, but did going into it and getting as close as you've been so many times, did you go into this tournament and fish it any different because of that?
The Sabine, one of the locals, he actually is not really a fisherman. It's Tyler Rivette's girlfriend's dad, David Jones.
David Jones, yeah.
Yeah. He said the Sabine River is like the Masters. And it's a lot of truth. He said, because every day you're going to have different conditions, different tides. They're going to move the greens around on you. It's just different every day. And it's a chess game, man. And, not only do you try to stay ahead of the fish on that system, but you got to try to stay ahead of the competition. I knew what I did last time. I knew guys were going to go over there and practice. It's just, it's just part of doing well in an event. You kind of got to erase it from your memory. And I didn't even go over there because last time when I did well over there, me and Zaldane were the only ones to go. And I'm pretty sure we were the only ones to even practice over there. Well, I got wind, the second day of practice that there was 6 or 7 boats over there. And that's not a very big area at all. So I'm like, well, I know for sure I'm not going. And, I was like, of course, this time of the season, you start stressing a little bit over the Classic if you're right on that bubble, And I'm like, well, I need every point I can get. And I was catching better quality average keepers around takeoff, those 1.5 to 1.75 to 2-pound fish. I was getting more of those bites around the Sabine River rather than anywhere else. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to try to stay around here, maximize my time on the early bite. Cause before the sun got up, they bit the first hour and a half really well. And then I was like, then, if I want to go I'm going to win this thing, I'm going to need a big one. So once I get my limit that I'm comfortable with, I'll run the Taylors and see if I can catch a big one.
Worked out pretty good.
It did. It did. I mean, even, on day 2, I broke down, kind of. I had
What
issues.
happened? I didn't know what happened that day.
Okay, so I was running down and I hit a barge wake pretty hard. I may not have slacked up a little bit or seen it coming. I mean, I seen the barge, but it was pushing against the tide and the current, so the wake was bigger on the backside of it.
Yeah.
I kind of, not as hard as Seth Fighter hit the ship wake that time at St. Lawrence, but it was pretty bad. Well, I got back and I was running, I got back to full speed, and all of a sudden I trimmed it and everything died. My electronics, my motor, I'm going 70 miles an hour and it just dies. And I had a AGM cranking battery, and when which I didn't know it, I looked back at my batteries, everything was good, cranked right up. So I was like, okay, well, cranked up, we're going to continue to go. So I get back on pad, I start to trim it up, everything dies again. And I was like, okay, well, that's weird. Let's try it one more time. And I got back on pad, and instead of trimming it up, I used my jack plate, and it did. Again, everything died. Motor, everything. So I ran all the way back to takeoff, and I was literally almost at the canal to Taylor's. I mean, I was all the way down Port Arthur. And I called Lisa. I got it on pad, and I didn't touch my trim or nothing. I'm easing my way back. I called Lisa when I got on pad, told her what's happening, that I'm on my way back. And then, I had a camera crew following me that day, and I asked her, I said, if it shuts down, can I get towed back by them? She said, yeah, absolutely. So anyway, and then when I got off the phone with her, I called the service guys and said, hey man, I'm on my way. So they had a trailer in the water waiting for me when I got back. And it was kind of pretty funny. I'm pretty proud of it, because when I got up there and I put my boat on the trailer, I had them all stumped. I mean, every service guy in the yard was around my boat, and they're all scratching their heads. And I'm pretty proud of that. A couple of times they thought they had it figured out. They put me back in the water. I take off, same thing. So finally, one of them touched the terminal on my AGM battery, and it's hot. And they're like, well, that ain't right. And he just kind of turns the terminal, and the terminal's turning on the battery. And he's like, man, maybe that's it. So they swapped out my AGM battery for another one, and it fixed it right away. And Andy for Phoenix, the service guy for Phoenix, he put it in the back of his truck, and he said he touched it 2 hours later, and it was hard as a rock, wouldn't move. But
wow.
I got back in on the water, and it was like 11 o'clock, and I looked at my gas, and I burned 18 gallons of gas, and I'm like, man, I don't think I can make it on gas. And I was like, not to mention, I'm due back in 4 hours. I was like, but I already got 10 and a half pounds on my scale. I said, I'm good. I can go over there and fish for an hour and just try to catch one big one. So I said, I'm going to do it. So I struck out, and I ran 5,000 RPMs all the way over there to conserve fuel, and made it over there with only burning 30 gallons total for the day. And I was like, oh yeah, we're good. And I went like 2.5 hours without wetting a hook that day. And of course, I had a good limit in the boat, and I really didn't, wasn't stressing at all. Just kind of everybody, even the service guy was like, man, you're calm for this kind of situation. I was like, I got 10 pounds in the boat. And they're like, oh, that makes sense now. But I ended up going over to Taylor's and culling twice that day with only like an hour to fish. But it was one of them things where it was kind of pretty funny that none of the guys could figure it out. I mean, you got the best technicians in the world for those companies, and they're all just like stumped.
Wow. Weird. When's the first time you thought you could win the tournament? At that point, were you fishing to win the tournament, or are you still fishing for points on day 2? When did you think, this might be mine?
Honestly, on the ride back from Taylor's on day 2. After all that, adversity, I kept my cool. I ran over there, putted over there rather, and caught 2 good fish and ran all the way back. And literally when I was running back and I got to about where I started having boat issues, it kind of hit me like, which I didn't know. Usually somebody catches, 14, 15 pound bags the first day, and then they'll back it up with 11 or 12 pound bag. And they're sitting, like me and Jason was 2 years ago, way ahead of everybody. I didn't know that I was going to be in the lead after day 2, but I thought I was going to be in really good position. I was like, I felt like, for what I found there close to takeoff, I was like, I'm pretty sure I can catch 10 pounds a day. And I was like, if I can catch 10 pounds a day, I think I'll have a legit shot. And, that's what, running back on day 2, it just kind of hit me. The emotions hit me, like this may be it.
So day 3, when you start as good as you did, and then you get that one big bite, which is one of the most iconic pictures, that picture that Dalton took of you is just, it Dalton just explains everything. You know what I mean? It's you can't fake that kind of picture.
I've been saying all week that, you got to have a big one here. You got to have a big one. And I never did have a big bite in practice or in the tournament. The biggest fish I caught all week was a 3-pounder, which is a big one there. But in 2 previous trips, I've caught a 6.3, a 5.5, and another one almost 5 in the tournament. And I was like, man, if I can just get one of them bites, things could get real salty around here. You know what I mean? I was like, I really feel like I can win if I get a big bite. And, at 6:30 on day 3, I catch that 4 3/4. And Dalton, like you said, Dalton was just ready for it. They were on point.
That's a great shot. It's, as soon as I saw it, the color and everything's awesome, but it's just like your emotion. It's, you can't fake a shot like that. I hope they use it for the cover. I hope they put you on the cover and use that picture.
That'd be awesome.
To me is one of the most iconic competition pictures there is out there. And it kind of explains, but one of my favorite parts of this tournament is topwater. Whenever you can win a tournament, it's good, but whenever you can win a tournament throwing topwaters, it gets a little better, doesn't it?
One of the oldest topwater baits there is, it was funny, everywhere else I fished on, the Sabine, other than that one stretch I started on every morning, they exploded on it like normal, just poof, they got it. There they go. There, they slurped it. Like there was several times I'm sitting there working it and I just took my eyes off for a second. I'm like, where'd my bait go? And you would not know how big they were until you leaned into them. It was the weirdest thing. It was such a subtle bite. And I guess it's because they were so deep, they would just come up and look at it. Instead of just, a quick reaction, they just come up there and just slurp it under and go back down. I literally had to pay attention extra carefully during those topwater bites.
So this is the most we've talked about fishing ever on this podcast anyway. So what you said, it was relief. Take me through, you win the tournament, family comes out on stage. You have the shout out to Stormy, which tell me about that relationship. I already earlier in this podcast talked about it, and I'm like, it's the partnership that people want. Like it was like a Jerry Maguire moment. Like Stormy has supported you 6 years or something. You guys worked together
I was the very first angler that Dakota Lithium had on any level. I was the first bass boat that a Dakota Lithium went in.
Wow.
And they didn't even necessarily have a website, and I'm not really sure how I got in touch with him. I'm pretty sure, that year I was I think I was between titles. I didn't my title wasn't going to up new for the next year. And it was something to that effect. Of course, a new guy, I'm still 2 or 3 years on the elites on the elites and, just still building sponsorships. And I just think I Googled lithium batteries and just started contacting all these companies. And Stormy, he emailed me back and gave me his number, said, hey man, give me a call. And it's been a match made in heaven. I love that. I actually think one of them bobblehead dolls behind your right shoulder there kind of looks like Stormy, the one with the red jacket.
Which one? Right here?
Yeah.
That is, dude. That is wow. This is a great Canadian hockey icon. That is Don Cherry. He kind of now. The only bad news is Don Cherry's 85 and Stormy's not quite 85, but they do have a similar. Don Cherry
from a distance, they look like Stormy.
Oh yeah, no, I got that. I agree with you. He wears
Kinda
less
dressed
track
like him
pants
too,
than
you
Stormy.
know. I mean, Stormy wore the American flag for a shirt.
He did.
The final morning. I just saluted Stormy.
Did you have any idea to take in like the amount of people that really wanted? I mean, everybody. I mean, I know I've said it to you, to your mom, to your family so many times. Oh, this is building towards something, and I honestly do believe that, and I think your career is still building towards something. But those close seconds, that's why everybody wanted you to win. Did you have any idea of just the amount of people? You know, have you had a chance to even think about that?
You know, I really didn't at the time. And, you know, one thing that I have just kind of taken in is how many of my fellow elite anglers was really pulling for me. You know, I feel bad, you know, because I've been in Clark's shoes, you know, which Clark had to really catch him to catch me. But, and he had the best day of the top 10. But, you know, Clark finished the second to Tyler, you know, the first event of the year. And I was
That's
like,
true.
man, you know, I know what 2 seconds in one season feels like. And, but, you know, he has 4 Angler of the Year trophies too. And maybe, you know, just because he keeps putting himself in those top 10s, but yeah, I mean, just the overwhelming is just the respect that I didn't realize I had all those guys respect like I did. And you can't put a price on that, man. And that means a lot. And I wish I could read you what Gerald Swindle sent me, but I can't do that. No, I don't. But I laughed all the way home at his text message.
Okay. Will you send it to me after we're done here?
Maybe. I'll have to ask him first.
We don't want to cause any legal trouble or get anyone in trouble. The run to the crowd, did you think about that, or was that a spontaneous thing?
Oh, I thought about it. And you know where I got it from? Iconelli in Pittsburgh. I was like,
yeah.
Even though that's his hometown, I was like, man, these people of Orange have been so awesome to us all weekend. They called me on stage at the concert the night before.
I saw it.
I was like, man, I want to celebrate with all these people.
Yeah. It feels like
when I got out there, I was like, oh crap, I'm gonna be here in the dark. But I was like, I don't even care. I only get this, you know, today's my day, and I'm gonna spend it with all these people.
Yeah, it was awesome. I loved it. I loved every bit of it. To me, that's what that sport's about, and that's honestly what that event's about. You know, and I feel like weirdly enough, I think maybe just because you've been close, been close in Orange, and maybe because of your relationship with Tyler and different, but it's not your hometown, but there does feel like there's a connection to you. Like all week, you were getting a great pop from the crowd long before you won that tournament.
Yeah. And a lot of that, you know, probably had to do with, you know, 2 years ago, you know, 2 years ago was pretty much the Brock Mosley, Jason Christie show. I mean, we ran away from the rest of the field, and it was just a matter of which one of us was gonna, you know, outlast the other. And, you know, that probably was still kind of fresh on all their memories. And, but yeah, those people there, man, they're awesome. And they show out, they do it right.
One of the coolest things that I love that your mom brought up to me and showed it to me was that bride shirt she made, because I mean, obviously I called you a 5-time Elite Series bridesmaid, and she told me she made that shirt like a year ago and she's had it, but it just said bride across it. And I'm like, it's pretty cool. Like, I mean, but nobody's shocked to see it happen. So,
you know, I didn't mind you saying the 5-time bridesmaid, because I mean, 5 times means like I sound even better than, you know, I am.
Yeah.
When you do something 5 times, and that, you know, maybe Polnick has that many seconds, but there's not many guys that have as many second place finishes on the Elites. But I liked it, but I know Stormy and several others, you know, they wasn't a big fan of it.
Stormy,
that's what I was known for.
Yeah, but here's the reason that it's funny, because I mean, just there's a reason that I say almost a lot of the stuff that I say about all of you guys. You know what I mean? Because that, by reminding people that this guy's been close 5 times, number one, it shows how good you are. But number two, it shows it makes people invest in you. You know what I mean? That's the guy you want to cheer for. He's finally going to get it done here today.
Yeah, and that was the main story all week for the most part. Could I finally bust through that hole and make it, you know? And we got it done. I mean, it was eating on me a little bit about midday, but I finally, when I caught one to Cole a little bit, and I was like, okay, we got this. Put your head down and fish. Make them beat you.
What was it like to have Hank and Tyler, and I think Brad Watley was out there too, cheering you on the water?
It was awesome. You know, Hank and Tyler came, you know, 2 years ago and watched most of the day. And, you know, Brad, me and Brad, we fish a lot alike. We really do. And Brad's funny. Brad is a hilarious guy, and he just kind of holds it in public. I wish, like, our cameraman that me and Tyler have now, he's like, dude, Brad Watley could have his own YouTube show and it'd be hilarious. And he'd not change a thing. Like, he's kind of like Swindle, but he keeps it in. I'm like, dude, if everybody knew how funny you were, I said, dude, you'd be like the next level on Gerald Swindle. And a lot of times it's because he's being serious. You know, he's one of them that gets real. He gets real angry real fast, but it's a funny angry. Like one day, I think I rode back with him from the ramp at Santee Cooper because he fished A3 and I didn't. And he was going on and on and on, and he wasn't paying attention to me, and I just hit the old video button to Snapchat and was videoing him to listen to him gripe. And I think it's because we sat at Dairy Queen for an hour and never got our ice cream. He was going on and on and on, and it was hilarious. But I wish he would come out of his shell a little bit in public and let everybody know how funny he is.
There's a lot of dudes like that in the Elite Series. Keith Combs, the same. Like, I mean, you get him doing impersonations and stuff, and he is hilarious. But like, I've literally had arguments with him on stage. Like at the Classic, I had an argument with him on stage where I'm like, because he does this incredible Mark Davis impersonation. And I keep saying, I'm going to ask you one day, like, what would Mark Davis think of your impersonation of your performance today? So it's the final day of the Classic, I think. And he's on stage and I'm like, can we do Mark Davis? He's like, don't do it. And I'm like, and this is off. I'm holding the mic down. I'm like, come on, they'll love it. He's like, don't do it. And I'm like, I'm doing it. I didn't end up doing it because he didn't want to do it. But there's a lot of really funny dudes on tour.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, at the end of the day, we're all just kind of a bunch of rednecks fishing together and competing together and traveling together. So it's kind of funny, you know. Chris and Corey from up north, I mean, from, you know, right there where you are, they're the same way. I mean, you get them two together.
Yeah.
Matt Robinson. I mean, it's just best not to go out on the town with them, you know?
No kidding. No kidding. Does it shock you that Matt Robertson was literally thinking of going tuna fishing on the final day of the tournament when he was in 5th place?
I yelled at him across the water when he was fishing just the other side from me on that final day. He said, man, I'm just so glad you got your pants on today. I didn't want to fish with you in your underwear inside.
Why was there so many? Why was there so many fish there in that area?
I really don't know. I mean, I said from the get-go, I thought they were retreads from 2 years ago. One of the guys at the after party said that lives there says one of the locals that fishes their Tuesday nighter every week said he goes in there every week and he catches 7 or 8 pounds. Now he don't win unless it's tough because they can go to Louisiana side into the marsh.
Yeah.
Every week he's got 7 or 8 pounds. And he also said that guy's probably pretty ticked off at me right now. But hey, it was worth it.
Yeah, I'll do it. How was the after party?
It was pretty good. Stormy came through on that end. I didn't even know about it. But we showed up and my wife and Kendall, Tower's girlfriend, was like, take your trophy. It'll be fun. I was like, I don't want to take my trophy to dinner. You're like, take your trophy. I was like, all right, let them talk me into it. And we walk in and everybody's standing there. It was pretty awesome. Like I said, Stormy made sure he took care of us all. And then, Davey Height ended up shaving the head of my cameraman. It was pretty fun night.
I've saw videos of this, but what is the deal with shaving the cameraman's head? And why was Davey Height the barber?
He made a bet. I didn't even like really agree to it. I was just like, oh, okay. You know, he's like, if you and Tyler win the rest of the season, I'm going to shave my head. And I'm like, okay, you know, I've won so many, you're probably going to get your head shaved. I'll probably get you a good trim, but that's about it. But he held himself accountable, and I never even said a word to it. He's like, man, I got to shave my head tonight. I was like, okay. Well, his hair was down to about his shoulders. And of course, here comes Davey Height, the military man. He said, let me show you how it's done. And they had him looking pretty funny before they finished it off. He had two patches of hair right here on each side down to his shoulders. And he's redheaded, so he's got like that evil doctor look going. But it was a good time, man. And then I look out there and they're using a leaf blower to blow him off.
Oh, damn.
Oh, it was a good night.
So how long ago did he make this bet with you?
Last week.
So you just needed the right motivation. I mean, literally all that stood in the way of you as victory is that bet and wearing your blue jersey on Sunday. Are you ever wearing the blue jersey on Sunday again?
Oh, yeah, because I'm not going to be afraid. I'm going to at least wear it the next time. And if I don't win, then we may burn it. But I could not wear it just because of Seth. Seth said, hey, you wear that stupid blue jersey, you're not going to win tomorrow, just so you know. And I was like, well, thanks, Seth. Now I can't wear it. And then after waiting, Seth texted me and said, I told you so.
It worked. I mean, Seth knows some stuff. He does know some stuff. So we're heading north next. And 2 out of the 3 fisheries we're going to are fisheries that you've got a second place finish on. So why not go back to back and go win St. Clair?
Oh, yeah, that'd be awesome. I mean, it's been a while since anybody's going back to back. But, you know, hey, St. Clair, you know, I always say anybody can win St. Clair. Anybody. You know, it's all a matter of just finding the right quality, those 4.5 pounders instead of 4 pounders. It's just anybody can stumble across them, just like, you know, I did, you know, and I don't even know what year that was now, 17 or 18. And then, you know, who last time we went? Bill
Wilder won there.
Bill Wilder. Yeah. He was catching, you know, just better quality fish than everybody, because, you know, everybody's going to catch 20 pounds, but that guy didn't catch 21 or 22 pounds is going to jump him up.
Yeah.
But it's a fun place, man. I always enjoy going to St. Clair, and then, of course, the 2 New York ones, man. It gets so hot down here, you don't want to go fishing here anyway. So going up there and catching big smallmouth on top of it is just icing on the cake.
I'm all for that. I mean, that was too hot for me last week. I don't care. People can say whatever they want. I am too Canadian and too chunky to stand on a stage in that heat, because it was freaking hot.
Mark, my cameraman, the final 2 days, he flew in on Friday from Alaska. On Saturday, I was a little worried about him. He got a little swayed back there, you know, on the back deck. He was kind of hurting. And then luckily on Sunday, you know, it was cloudy and overcast the whole day, but he was hurting on Saturday. It was hot.
Yeah, it was really hot Saturday. The Sunday was very welcoming. It was very hospitable. So what is it like to, you know, like your phone, everything, like what has transcended since you left that stage to today? How busy have you been?
Man, I have not stopped. I took a break earlier to go get a haircut, and I was real close to letting them shave my head in practice last week. I think that's what started the whole shave my head deal. My hair was pretty long for me, and I just sweating all day. You know, I was like, man, this stuff's got to go. But yeah, I took a break earlier and went and got my haircut, and that's about the only break I've had. I mean, I hadn't even had time to, literally right before we did this podcast, I went back and watched the final few minutes of weigh-in just to kind of help me take it in, because I haven't had that time to take it in just yet.
What did it feel like to watch that?
It's emotional. It really is, man. I see how many people got emotional for me, and that's it. You know, it means a lot. You know, everybody, I've had so many people text me, anglers, friends, say, man, they couldn't help but get emotional and tear up for me. And, you know, it's just overwhelming.
Yeah. How bad was the pressure for you going into not to this event, but this season? Like, I mean, it's like you said, relief. Was it really at the point where you're like, man, I need to win one of these soon? Or had you had you thrown it away to be like, it'll happen whenever it happens if it's meant to happen?
I really did. I mean, I really just told myself, if it's meant to be, it'll happen when it's supposed to happen. I mean, more or less, I'm like, just keep putting yourself in position and it'll work out one day.
Yeah.
And, I've been fortunate in my elite career to put myself in position, 6 or 7 times now. And, you keep doing that, eventually you'll bust through and get one.
I was pretty impressed earlier in the year, and I've talked about it a few times, but, I think it's only natural. But when Tyler won on Okeechobee, after you had been as close as many times you had, there was a bunch of people who probably thought, ooh, that's tough for Brock to take. But dude, you were incredibly happy for him. Was there any part of that was like, is it ever going to happen for me?
No, not really. I mean, what I really started doing, and I'll use Swindle for this because he don't care. He'll just send me a dirty message later or something. I look at guys like Swindle and how long it took Bill Lowen to win one. And, Swindle's got 2 Angler of the Years, but he hasn't won an Elite Series tournament.
No.
And Matt Herron's another one. I mean, there's so many great anglers that have great careers that haven't won an elite event. And, I've looked at it like that, I mean, Tyler, he needed that win. I mean, he came off a year off season where, his title sponsor, lets him down 2 days before Christmas. I mean, he don't have time to go find another title and then to come out and win the first one of the year and then bounce back with a third. I mean, I actually texted him earlier and I said, man, I don't know how you caught a fish at Seminole. I said, if your phone rang anything like mine did or is, I don't know how you stayed focused because he don't stay focused anyway. And I mean, he was more focused at Seminole of us playing ping pong every night than he was on the actual tournament.
Do you think that's part of it seems like the more relaxed somebody can get, the easier it comes in some ways. Do you think that's part of it?
Yeah, absolutely, man. I started fishing better, and truth be told, when I got, the sponsor backing to where I'm like, okay, I don't have to stress about getting a check in the elite event no more. I mean,
Yeah.
that's what it boiled down to. And Tyler's real laid back and just easy going, and he's like that. I mean, honestly, and I traveled with both of them. Some of his attitude reminds me of Jordan Lee. I travel with Jordan. Jordan just kind of just goes out there and goes fishing, and that's what Tyler does.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's one of the weird injustices of our sport. Because if you look in other sports, any sport, football, baseball, I mean, you might be a rookie in Major League Baseball pitcher, and you're against the guy who's making millions and millions of dollars. That rookie, when he's pitching the ball, is still making more money than most league minimum. If he's getting paid, he's making more money than most people he went to school with. And
Yep.
the last thing he's thinking of when he's throwing that ball is, man, I better throw a safe pitch to make sure I make a $10,000 check. I think it's one of the toughest things to overcome.
Absolutely, man. And I remember after my 4th season, I was qualified for the Classic. I remember texting John Cruz and I said, dude, how long did it take you till it felt like you had actually fully made it? And he said, about the end of my 5th year. And he hit it about just nail on the head, man. I mean, it took me about 5 full years before I finally felt like, okay, you're here to stay. And it takes time. It don't happen overnight.
Do you think you'll fish different now that you've won this?
I don't think so. I really don't. I mean, it's hard for me to say that I fished to win. You know what I mean? Like, I try to stay consistent, and that's the main thing. Now, I will say one of the main reasons I went to Taylor's to try to catch a big one every day is because I read some of the tournament fantasy picks, or, you know, some of these things online on social media, and there was a bunch of people picked me to win, like a bunch. And I'm like, crap, if I just sit here and try to catch 8 or 9 pounds every day, I'm not going to win. And I'll let everybody down. So once I got to that, you know, 8 or 9 pounds every day, that's when I went to Taylor's and tried to catch a big one.
So you actually thought of the fantasy fishing folks.
I did, because dude, I don't know how many times, especially this year, like the Jeff at Phoenix, he's like, after a bad event, he's like, man, had you picked on fantasy this week, you let me down. Thanks, Jeff. I appreciate it, buddy. Well, he usually texts me on Wednesday to ask me, man, do I need to take you off my team?
That's another amazing thing that's happening this season too. I mean, 5 out of the 6 Elite Series events have been won out of a Phoenix boat this year.
That is awesome.
It's pretty incredible. But I mean, we got a few more events ahead. Big news here today I want to talk to you about before we let you go to do. You're doing podcasts all week, I'm assuming.
Yeah, pretty
booked. Did you hear about Liv and PGA? They merged.
Yes, I've seen that just a few minutes ago, and I'm like, okay, money does talk.
Do you think that could ever happen in fishing?
I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Because it was real similar.
Yeah. It's the only thing that's different is the money. A lot more money
is
and
way different.
That's why I hate when people compare. Like, if you've watched that, what is that series? There's a Netflix series that shows the PGA behind the scenes or whatever. It's kind of like the Formula One series, but I watched it. And dude, I'm watching it, and the whole way through it, all that kept screaming in my head is all these people on podcasts that talk about how fishing is like golf. And I'm like, not one of the dudes that I work with leaves on a jet. These guys all leave on jets. Some of them have to leave on their buddy's jet, but it's still a jet that they fly out of there.
We're home that afternoon.
Yeah, it's the only difference is a lot of money and a lot of viewership. But I do think there's similarities in that it's an individual sport, and I don't know that we could ever merge just simply because
we may have bigger egos.
I don't know. You watch that series, there's some pretty big egos.
Yeah.
I mean, dude, when you have a jet, you can get a freaking ego.
Ego is a terrible thing.
Yeah.
Everybody just needs to flush it.
I just think there's too many anglers. Like, how could you know what I mean? Like, so let's just say they merge tomorrow. Well, rough numbers, you got 100 on each side. Like, so who goes? Or do tournaments become 200?
Right.
And then that's not going to be great. You know what I mean? Sponsorship wise. And so who knows? But I mean, I guess if Liv and PGA can do it, anything can happen.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. As long as I get one of the slots.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding.
So what's next for you? Podcast, and that's it. You getting any off time in the next month and a half?
Oh, yeah. Well, you know, my wife and kids are out for the summer. So I told them we got to get this week by us and let everything kind of slow back down. And then we'll have iCast in a few weeks. And, you know, I've already, some of the phone calls today have been, you know, about planning stuff for iCast. Hook wants to get my trophy down there. So, you know, several GSM they've called, already talking about iCast. So that's the next big thing for us, you know, and then we'll have to start worrying about St. Clair.
Yeah. Well, dude, you're an Elite Series champion. No more bridesmaid. All those bridesmaid finishes turn into top threes now. He's got an Elite Series win and a 5-time. Well, more than that, probably, if I go to top 3. Who knows? We got time to come.
I got 1/3.
Yeah. There you go. There you go. No, thank you for doing this, dude. And I didn't want to take too much of your time because I know how busy you are, but I got into this weird habit of not chasing the champs, not having the winner, but then everybody else has you on your podcast, and then I get yelled at by anglers for not having them on. So Sorry, Tyler Rivette. Sorry, Luke Palmer and whoever else won earlier this year. But we're starting a new tradition with Brock. And thanks for coming on, dude. I appreciate it.
Man, I appreciate you having me on, dude. It was a blast. And I appreciate you trying to get me to calm down on stage while I get my emotions in check so I can get through it. You know, it was pretty emotional.
Yeah. Yeah. Somebody said that they thought that Overstreet's like, maybe that's why he ran in the crowd. He started to get emotional. He was like, I'm out of here. I'm like, no, maybe. I don't know. But no, that was an emotion, dude. Like, we've had some victories, but that was an emotional victory. Cause like, dude, you are, and just even the way the tournament was, it was like a Brock Mosley tournament, like an like you're kind of a throwback. I feel anyways. And I don't mean this in a bad way, but you're like, you know what I mean? You're a young Denny Brower, you know what I mean? And even the way you won this tournament, you won it as a bass tournament. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
I don't know if anybody noticed on camera, but there was at one time I had all my grabs cut off.
Yeah. I never noticed that, but dude, they hardly played in this tournament. That's like, people may not like the size of the fish, but I saw fish eating poppers. I saw fish eating frogs. I saw, spinner baits. Like, it was an old school tournament and kind of the perfect one for you to win.
Yeah, it was. We don't have many of those anymore, but hey, it was a lot of fun. But I actually, before we go, I had a lot of messages from I'm in some groups around here and messages like fruit jars and stuff, and they're like, man, you made fishing cool again. Our wives said we can all go fishing now, because they got emotional watching you weigh in. I said, that's all you got to do. Have one person have an emotional speech about his wife on stage, and all the wives let their husbands go fishing again. But it's been a fun week, and man, it'd be awesome to get another one.
Well, enjoy this one. I'm sure there's lots of great highlights ahead for you, and we'll see you soon, bro.
I appreciate it, buddy. We'll see you in Orlando. It'll be hot down there too.
Oh,
we'll be riding, me and Tyler. You can catch us, me and Tyler, riding our bird scooters around in Orlando again.
Oh yeah, that's right. There's always a good time to be had in Orlando, and there's a lot of, I think I'm barred from Howl at the Moon. I had a little incident last year, but we'll talk about that off the podcast.
There's another Canadian that is too, and there's 4 you can, wrangle through your mind. Who could guess? I give you one guess, and you can guess who it is.
I bet you I know. He is a brother, and he has not won an Elite Series event. Correct?
Yep.
Thank you, dude. I told you it would end. You made it. You made it to the end of this podcast. I get it. It was a long one. But we had some really good conversations with Jake and Brock, and I hope you guys enjoyed them. Whether you had to break this apart in a few bits, or whether you watched it in one foul swoop, I appreciate that. I hope you have a great week. Enjoy being, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe, because Bob Cobb of the Bassmasters told you to. You hear?